Hello, and welcome to Enough and Evolving Podcast. I'm your host, Tiona Vallejo, Master Certified Life Coach and Mindfulness Expert, helping you reclaim confidence, break through unhelpful patterns, and manifest the relationships and life you desire. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 7, Understanding Emotions, Part 2. So last week we talked all about understanding emotions, part 1, and how our emotions aren't problems to be fixed or to avoid, but they're actually messengers, signals giving us guidance about what's happening in our mind and in our body. And today is part 2. I want to take it a step deeper. We're going to talk about the energetics of emotions and how emotions you experience regularly can actually influence what you create and attract in your life. One of my favorite definitions that I talked about on the last episode, episode 6, is emotions are energy in motion. And if we zoom out even more for a moment, we can see that modern physics tells us that everything is energy. So if everything is energy, then we can start to look at our emotions as different frequencies of energy. Some emotions may feel lighter or more open, more expansive, and some can feel heavier or more contracted or more dense. You might even describe emotions as high vibe emotions or other emotions as low vibe emotions. Regardless of what language you use, there's a felt sense in the body when you're experiencing them. And becoming aware of this felt sense can be incredibly powerful in how you move through your life. Years ago, I came across this book by Louise Hayes called You Can Heal Your Life. Maybe some of you have read it. I know some of my clients have been introduced to that. I remember being so fascinated by this book when I first got my hands on it because it was one of my first exposures to what is called somatic healing. And somatic healing is basically the mind-body approach of how emotions can get stored in the body, stress, trauma, past experiences, and how to heal through them. In Louise Hayes' work, she shares how different parts of the body can be connected to different emotional and mental patterns. For example, carrying tension in our shoulders may relate to a feeling of being burdened. Tightness in our neck might be related to a rigidity or a resistance of some type. And then discomfort in the low back can sometimes be connected to a fear around support or a fear around finances. Now, whether you believe every single one of those connections or not, I think it opens up a really powerful question. What if emotional experiences are more connected to our bodies than we've really been taught? Because at the very least, we can start to become more aware of these emotions and what they feel like in our body to invite deeper healing. What I want to invite you to do in this moment is just think about, what does frustration feel like in your body? What does anxiety feel like in your chest or your stomach? What does resentment feel like in your jaw or your shoulders? And what does sadness feel like in your throat or your heart space? The more we understand our body, the more we understand our emotions, and the more we understand our emotions, the more we can evolve. Now, this honestly is where I've done some of my deepest work, and it's been such an incredible discovery because it's helped me clear emotional patterns that weren't serving me. It's helped me build inner resilience and alignment and begin to speak up and step into my voice in a more empowering way. And speaking of alignment, this is where we can start to connect emotions to manifestation. You may have heard of Abraham Hicks. They are a collective channeler. Again, you can look them up on YouTube. They have what they've taught is this concept of an emotional guidance scale. It's the idea that emotions exist on a spectrum from lower emotions like fear, shame, and grief to a higher frequency of emotions like love, joy, and appreciation. And when we look at this through the lens of law of attraction, which says that like energy attracts like energy, we can begin to see how the emotional state we spend the most time in can influence what we experience more of. For example, if you're stuck in a pattern of fearful thinking, your mind will naturally generate fearful thoughts. Your body will reinforce the same emotional state. And your experiences may start to reflect that same energy back to you. This is why overthinking and rumination can feel like a loop you can't get out of, because it becomes a pattern of thought leading to your emotion, leading to a reaction, leading to a particular result, and repeating. So let me give you a real life example. Let's say your partner says something that triggers you. You feel irritation. Your nervous system becomes dysregulated, and your pattern may be to shut down or to withdraw. If your emotional pattern goes unprocessed, your emotion goes unprocessed, you'll likely experience similar situations that trigger the same response. Not because something's wrong with you, but because the pattern is still running. So let's look at how we shift the pattern. When you bring awareness to what you're feeling, everything begins to change. You feel irritation arise, but instead of reacting immediately, you pause, you breathe, you regulate your nervous system, and you process the sensation in your body of that irritation or whatever emotion is showing up. And then you choose how to respond. Maybe you can communicate with calm, honesty, and self-respect. That's how we begin to shift patterns. Another example would be, let's say in your business that you're used to doubting yourself all the time, questioning, second guessing yourself. You feel a lot of fear, and that fear leads to overthinking, to feeling frozen, not taking action. But what if the moment you feel the fear, you allow yourself to actually feel it, to feel the sensations in your body, to be with the fear so that you can process it instead of making it mean that something's wrong with you or something's gone wrong. You ground yourself. You create safety in your body. And then you choose to take one small, courageous step forward. Suddenly, the emotion begins to shift from fear to hope to courage. That is how you begin to take back authority over your emotional experience. Now, what is unconscious must be brought into consciousness so that it can be transformed. And your emotions are one of the most powerful ways to access that awareness. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember your emotions are not a verdict. They are information. They are signposts guiding you toward deeper awareness and ultimately a different result in your life. So just imagine what might change for you in your relationships, in your business, in your day-to-day life, if you started listening to your emotions instead of resisting them, if you started getting curious about the sensations of the emotions and allowed yourself to process the emotion in a healthy way instead of avoid them or react from them. Now, of course, if you have some emotions that feel very challenging to process or to feel, then it's so important to seek the support of either a therapist or a coach, depending on your needs. That is definitely work that I have done, and that has really helped me learn how to process them on my own. So if you're looking for a coach, feel free to reach out and we can have a one-on-one consultation to find out if we're a good fit for one another. Otherwise, I'd be happy to recommend another coach or therapist to you. Thank you so much for being here and listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it out with a friend. As always, remember, you are enough, and every day you are evolving.